Hello, it's 9 p.m. in Djibouti. It's time to English New Edition. For tonight headlines. We have President of the Republic has received his Egyptian parliamentary delegations. For the international scene, Europe migration is iron arm between Italy and the German Sea Watch Association. Welcome to our Zoom. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, has received this morning at the Presidential Palace a high-level delegation led by the President of the Egyptian Parliament, Dr. Ali Abdel Al. This Egyptian delegation is composed of the Secretary General of the Parliament, Mr. Ahmed Saad Ad-Dini, the Ambassador of Egypt in Djibouti, Mr. Ahmed Adel, the President of the Commission is in charge of African Affairs, Mr. Tariq Radwan, the hardest of his cabinet of the President of Parliament, Mr. Ala Ad-Din Nagy. The discussion is focused on ways and means to deepen bilateral relations between the two brother countries, particularly between the two parliaments of two countries. This visit is the first of its kind that an Egyptian parliamentary delegation will visit Djibouti, and this delegation will participate in the festivity of 42th anniversaries of the independence of our country. Attend this meeting on the Djiboutian side the President of the National Assembly, Mohamed Ali Ahmed, the President of a Friendship Group, Djibouti-Egypt, Mr. Ibrahim Abdou Ahmed, the Second Vice President of the Parliament, Ms. Safi Elmi Jibril, the Vice President of Friendship Djibouti-Egypt, Ms. Aisha Mohamed Abdallah, as well as the advisors in charge of relations with Arab countries, Mr. Ali Hamdan Abdou. In an interview, the President of the Egyptian Parliament, Dr. Ali Abdel Al, first present the sincere greetings of the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to his Djiboutian counterpart Ismail Omar Guelleh, and welcomed the excellent relationship between the two brother countries. He stressed that his country is always at the disposals of Djibouti in all areas that Djibouti share the same common interest with Egypt. The Speaker of the Egyptian Parliament warmly thanked President Guelleh for the warm welcome he received and his delegation. For his part, the President of the National Assembly, Mohamed Ali Ahmed, welcomed the visit of the Egyptian delegations, the first of its kind in Djibouti, which will strengthen the relation of two countries. In the parliamentary file, the discussions focused on ways and means to deepen bilateral relations between the two countries, particularly between the two parliaments of the two countries, he said. Under the chairmanship of the President of National Assembly, Mohamed Ali Ahmed, the Conference of Presidents of National Assembly was held on Wednesday, June 26, in the premises of Parliament. At this conference, the government was represented by the Prime Minister, Abdul Qadir Khan Mohammed, and by the Minister of National Defense in charge of relations with the Parliament, Mr. Hassan Omar Mohammed Burhan. The Second Vice President, the President of the Parliamentary Group and Standing Committee also took part in this meeting. The Conference of Presidents considered the transmissions to the relevant standings. Finally, the President of the Assembly recalled that the modality of the fourth public meetings ending the first ordinary session is 2019, scheduled for Sundays, June 13, as well as the extension is in extraordinary session of Parliament activity from 1 to 15 July next. Under the directions of this Vice President, the Honorable Abdallah Barkat Ibrahim, the Standing Committee on Legislation and General Administration met this Wednesday, June 26, 2019, in the committee room of the National Assembly. The agenda concerned the examinations of the bill bearing the Civil Code, The meeting was held in the presence of the Minister of Justice, the Minister of Justice and Penitentiary Affairs in charge of human rights, Mr. Ali Hassan Bahdon, and his closest collaborators. After an informative and rich debate, the committee expressed its favorable opinion as to the adoption of the provision studies at the next public sitting. The Minister of Defense in charge of relations with Parliament, Hassan Umar Mohammed Burhan, received today in his cabinet His Excellency Kuji Yonitani, Ambassador of Japan, accredited to Djibouti, accompanied by Captain Frigate Takayuki Kubo, attached of Embassy, Colonel Takuro Sekiya, commanders of the Japanese base, and the two other officers, besides the Ministers of Defense, took part in the meeting. Djibouti's side commanders Ilyas Abdullahi Gelle, head of the cabinet of the Minister of Defense, in charge of relations with Parliament. The meeting between the minister and his host focused on bilateral cooperation relations and more particularly on the defense file. The discussions between the two men also focused on the state of relations between our two forces, and in particular in the support to the Japanese self-defense forces in the framework of their activities in Djibouti, but also the support of our Djiboutian armed forces in the framework for building disaster response capacity. Adjoint ministerial missions, including the Minister of Interior and the Secretary of State for the Decentralization, Mr. Hamadou Mohamed Aramis, made Monday a work missions to Obor. The mission moved to Obor to respond to the Obor people's grievance regarding identity documents and civil status paper. The mission was accompanied by the technical teams of these ministries as well as the Director of the Population, welcomed by the regional and civil military authorities, whose Prefect Hassan Dabale Ahmed, on their arrival at the port of Obor. The ministerial delegation had talks with the prefectures, with the representative of Obor population from all the localities, including Obor, the sectors of Korangar, Alaili, Dada, and Adgeno. Pending documents and a good half of identity documents were sent to the ministerial delegation, which was accompanied by the Director of the Population, Mr. Ahmed Omar. The delegation discussed with the population the parts of the forms of civil status documents and identities. The two ministers promised the people the forms and requests for coins in their futures, and promised that they will soon carried out a new mission in Obor. The Minister of National Education and Vocational Training, Mustafa Mohammed Mahamoud, opened today at the People's Palace the work of the workshop of reflection on the national policy of education for sustainable development. Several members of the government, including in particular the Minister of Labor, Health and Environment, Mr. Isman Ibrahim Roble, Mahmoud Warsama Diriye, and Mohamed Abdul Qadir Musa, as well as representative of UNDP and UNICEF, Barbara Manzi, Janabu Maonde, took part in the launch of the workshop, which brought together more than 11 ministries particularly concerned by the issue of environment and sustainable development in Djibouti. In opening remarks, the ministers first paid tribute to Mr. Saba Bukhari, an expert from the UNESCO Regional Office in Nairobi, who leads the debate and reflections in shaping the future national education policy, sustainable development. For his part, the Minister Mustafa Mohammed Mahamoud noted the bitter challenges of climate change, environmental degradation, ecosystems deterioration that call for urgent action to save the planet. The minister took the opportunity to recall the government's commitment and strategy to promote sustainable development. The minister has emphasized the objectives of this meeting, which is to develop a common understanding of the issue of education for sustainable development and to raise awareness of the younger generations and more generally the population to the many social, economic and environmental challenges we are facing. The Secretary General of MENFOP, Mohamed Abdallah Mahyoub, opened last Sunday the work of a workshop on network of associated schools at UNESCO. The Secretary General of the National Commission of UNESCO, Mr. Mohamed Musa Yabe, and senior MENFOP officials took part in this important meeting. Many school directors, teachers, representatives of civil society organizations, but also senior officials from other ministries also participate in this reflections led by an expert from the UNESCO regional office in Nairobi. In an opening speech, Mr. Mohamed Abdallah Mahyoub emphasized the importance of the network of schools associated with UNESCO that advocate for the defense of and promotions of values and higher human principles such as peace, cohesion, and tolerance, cardinal values that are written in the DNA of the Djiboutian, because peace is the prerequisite for all sustainable development and all human progress. He repeat again. In a statement that has reached us, the Ministry of Health informed the public that immunization service will begin from June 13 to July 2019 for future Djiboutian pilgrims. In addition, on the instructions of the Minister of Health, Mr. Mohamed Warsama Diriye, Djiboutian pilgrims will also benefit from a free personalized consultation and a complete health check at the National Institute of the Public Health of Djibouti. Thus, future pilgrims are invited to visit the ENSPD to receive their course of vaccines and to benefit from medical examinations. A working meeting was held yesterday between the CEO of Djibouti Telecom and the various managers of this company. This high-level meeting brought together around the Director General of Djibouti Telecom, Mohamed Assawe Bouh, nearly 300 officials of the first of the telecommunications company of the Republic of Djibouti. It focused on strategies that are in progress until 2021 and how to improve it until 2035. It is for the first time that a meeting of this magnitude is held between the general management and the various managers of this company. It is a digital war in perpetuous competition and also competitive that the general director of Djibouti Telecom, Mohamed Assawe Bouh, wanted to confer with the heads of all the departments of this great company. In his speech, the General Director of Djibouti Telecom, Mohamed Assawe Bouh, asked all the managers present to forge links at first glance between the different departments of society, connect the region and the countries with the rest of the world to reduce thus the distances. On the occasion of the celebrations of the 42nd anniversary of the accession of the Republic of Djibouti to the independence, the Djibouti City Council is organized a great commemorative and cultural evening in front of the Esplanade of People's Palace. The public is invited to participate in the evening, which will be broadcast live on radio, television, after the newspaper. The preparatory activity for the celebrations of the 46th anniversaries of the national independence have been in full swing in Dekhe for a few days. Indeed, as usual, the Unity region is preparing to celebrate with pomp for the festivity of the national holidays, also under the aegis of the prefect of the region, Mr. Mohamed Sheikh Hassan, the prefect of service, as well as EDD, ONIAD, and TP are hard at work to beautify the city with cleaning work, streets, pavings of roads and arteries, and the rehabilitations of electrical equipment to contribute to the success of this most important holiday of our country. Colonel Wais Omar Boghor, commanders of the Djiboutian Coast, led by the new admiral of the meeting rooms of the Coast Guard headquarters, Yu Byong-ju, commanders of the coalition of maritime forces, 33 countries designed to eradicate international maritime piracy in the presence, among other officers of the two organizations, the Coast Guard, the commanders of the Djiboutian Coast Guard, and have had fruitful and constructive exchanges, highlighting the needs for very good cooperation on security and maritime security between the two organizations to effectively ensure joint operations. Colonel Wais Omar Boghor made welcome Admiral Yu Byong-ju and his delegation before giving him a brief presentation of the various missions and services of the Djiboutian Coast Guard. The General Director of Civil Defense, Colonel Mahmoud Musa Mahmoud, had today presided over the ceremony for the delivery of and training certificate for trainers. The 10-day training session was delivered by firefighters from International Emergency. The ceremony, which ended with this issuing of certificate for the benefit of participants. The purpose of this training for the trainers is to improve the skills and competence of a civil defense trainer to better fulfill their tasks, namely that the actions of the civil protection is particularly noticed during large-scale natural disasters and disasters that affect the populations. In the event of a crisis, the Djiboutian migrant populations may be faced with a particular condition of vulnerable and require specific assistance. The gendarme of Sheikh Musa Brigade exploded the cross-referenced information stating a thief of engine oil from the ports of Dorale. Immediately, the investigator moved to the neighborhood commonly known as Karawil, where the hiding places of the author of these hijackings was located. The search carried out on this site led to the discoveries of 16 barrels of oil of 200 liters each and 14 jerry cans and 20 totals of 4,000 liters of engine oil with a market values of 4 million Djibouti francs. During this statement, the alleged perpetrators admit that stealing this merchandise from the ports of Dorale. Under the auspices of the State Secretariat for Youth and Sports, the Djiboutian Handball Federation is closed yesterday evening. The women finalists of the Djibouti Cup, as usual, organized each in the honor of celebrations of our independent national. These explosive finals opposed the winning formations of the national championship, the national gendarmerie team, and the Red Sea team. The match took place at the gymnasiums of State High School in the presence of the Chief of Staff of National Gendarmerie, Mr. Colonel Zakaria Hassan Aden, senior officers of the National Gendarmerie, the sports directors of the Secretariat, the President of the Djiboutian Federation, Mr. Ahmed Mohamed, and other fans of the discipline for the occasion. Many fans made the trips to encourage their teams of both sides. It was a moment of conviviality and sharing between the young lovers of sport. The National Gendarmerie, the championship with a score of 14-6 against the team of Diviled. After the presentations of the trophy, the personalities congratulate the two finalists and salute the mentions of the National Gendarmerie, which once again placed in the fact. In the interest of the family, the Directions of National Security, a notice of research to the young Hassan Suge Hosh, located in Balbala. Hassan Suge has left his home since yesterday's the latest. He is out of his home. He was a teacher and short read it is where average any persons who has crossed the young Hassan Suge Hosh is requested to contact the family in the numero 07707 15 51 and police commissioners Hassan's family thanks you in advance. For the international scene, standoff between Italy and the German Sea-Watch Association continues. It has now been 13 days since the humanitarian ships is struck off the Italian island of Lampedusa with about 14 people on board. The captains of the boat, Carola Rocchete, told the Italian press on Tuesday that she wants to force the Italian blockade and bring the migrants to safety. Says that by the German NGOs, the European Court of Human Rights refused to intervene but asked Italy to provide any necessary assistance to vulnerable people on the boat. The living conditions are abysmal, as evidenced by Hermans, a native of Ivory Coast. Belarus launched a call for help relayed on the social networks of Sea-Watch. This is it for tonight's news. Thanks for watching us.